we get started into the agenda items, just take the opportunity to welcome Miss Susan Boatwright to the, well, let me go back. I want to officially welcome her to the new role as Executive Director of our organization or association. We all know Miss Boatwright or Susan because she's been so helpful in the role as the legislative liaison for the association and participating on our committee meetings, but she's now participating in a different capacity. And while she and Wayne are still kind of tag teaming and transitioning, we just still want to welcome you officially to the role and look forward to all the exciting things that you have in store for us and the association. So welcome. And would you like to say anything before we move into the agenda regarding this piece of your new role or regarding your new role?
Oh, just thank you, Gretchen. And I'm just so excited. It feels like a very natural fit, and just reconnecting with people again and seeing all that you're already doing is just, I'm very, very excited. And so I've just got to figure out how to keep Wayne. So
right.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. I think we've all been trying to figure that out, but I think that maybe now that he won't have to stay in the capacity that you're in now, maybe he'll consider hanging around with us a little longer. So I guess now we can move on into our agenda. I know I don't want to keep you all this morning since it's dry today and you can possibly go outside and enjoy it. So we're gonna ask Wayne to give us an update on the administrative salary study, and then we'll roll into Susan's updates, and then I'll come back in and kind of have some further dialogue with us.
Let me defer until the dogs calm down a bit. Some evil has perpetrated themselves in the street out there.
Wayne, I know all about that, and I'm just thankful mine is on silent right now. So Susan,
okay, I'll check back in a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Do you mind, Susan?
No, not at all.
Okay.
So of the bills that passed and that we are tracking, the one that has been signed, and they will all be signed, but there was a bigger sort of signing ceremony that included a lot of the defects division specific legislation on Monday. And included in that was signing of the House Bill 562, which is the one that we were following most closely. And so it's been signed. It is good to go. I think it's effective as of signature. So that means that defects case managers do have that same protection as other public officials in having an evidentiary hearing before an arrest warrant can be taken out on them. So the others that we were just kind of following until they were signed was the Senate Bill 32, which excluded and protected certain personal information, basically expanded what was already excluded. House Bill 146, the 3 weeks of paid parental leave for eligible state employees, and House Bill 173, which is a GSRA lobbied piece of legislation. We were just watching it because we have some retirees who Wayne always participates in the GSRA meetings and attends the board for the employees retirement system. And this would allow the consideration of having representation from organizations such as GPHSA that have 1,000 or more members. Of course, you have to really take the long view to not get lost in all of the small steps being taken here, but they're important because it is that board of trustees that makes a vote on things that impact retirees from defects. You may have seen at their most recent meeting, they proposed, I think, an $1,800 supplemental payout to retirees and two $900 payments. And that's great. Of course, what the retirees would prefer is that there be a cost of living adjustment included. And again, this is something that GSRA lobbies for, and we just want to support them as much as we possibly can. But we were watching this because having someone else at the table at the Board of Trustees meeting would allow a voice that may not have been there before. So that is where we are with the legislation we were watching. Of course, there's tons of legislation that was signed that is program specific, and you could find that in the AJC from Monday, or I think Kevin is providing regular updates. I just tried to stick to some universal things that impacted all employees, but certainly some foster care and adoption legislation has been passed that is noteworthy. That's all I have. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Susan. I was trying to get off mute. Wayne, are you ready now?
Yes, I think the evil in the street. There they go again.
Maybe it's because you're not talking to them. That happens to my dog.
No, if it moves outside, it has to be taken exception to.
Okay.
Let me see. And I'll be back in a minute.
Okay, that's fine. No problem. All right. Well, Susan, we appreciate you for doing that. And I would recommend everyone going into and looking for those several program-specific legislation, or looking for the program-specific legislation that's been passed, because I know there's a lot that impacts child welfare. So we appreciate Susan for that update. And Susan, when you referenced Kevin was sending some things out, would we still be able to go into the place that where Vicki had the information, when we go in and we were reviewing the legislation that takes us to where the proposed bills are the ones that are passed still in some kind of database like that?
What I can do, so here's an idea. And Kevin is A-okay with me sharing the Excel document that he put together that tracks all the legislation. It is very big, but you can find a link to specific legislation and a description of what it is. How about I forward that Excel document to this group, and then we can reconcile as things are signed, because we know what was passed and what didn't cross over or didn't get the final vote. But of the things that did, I can go in and update that document in the shared drive as things get passed. But I can share with you the most up-to-date as of today, if that would be helpful.
I think it would be extremely helpful, and I appreciate you even suggesting that. But what do the other people on the committee think? Are you all thinking that's a good idea, or rather not? What?
I like it. Just gives me an opportunity to learn more, because I still think I have a lot to learn about the process, and just getting a look at that, I think would be very beneficial. I would like it.
Okay, well, thank you, Jonathan. I think the idea that it'd be all in one place is great too. Anybody else? Any feedback? Anybody?
We can also upload it on the SharePoint.
Yeah, we could just upload that document if you wanted to.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Either way, I think that would be great. I just think,
and then you can update it as you go, and it's a live update. So when you go in there and you edit it, it updates where you are, or it's supposed to. So
the
it should be a living
document.
document.
Kevin's document and the one we have is that the division doesn't track everything that we did, and vice versa, because the interest is a little bit different. So there is a slight difference in, it's not item for item consistent, but there's a lot of crossover. So are you thinking to update the Excel document, to upload the Excel document from Kevin and then work from that, or just have that as a resource and update our template?
Well, what would be easier for you just to update that central one, because now I guess we need to check to see if the ones that we were watching are on Kevin's.
Yes.
And if it's a catch-all, then I guess it makes sense to just use that going forward because it has more data, it has more information.
It does. Yeah, I can do that. I'll do a reconciliation of that and see which ones our number is likely smaller than what is on his, so it would be a bigger view. I'll do that. Let me try to reconcile the two.
And I think if we need to have some further conversation about it, we certainly could as you get into it, because I heard what you were saying about he's not tracking necessarily some of the things that we would be tracking that would be related to all of our members, not just the ones that are part of DFACS. And we still would want to know what's going on with that. So it may be that we have to have some further conversation on what that looks like. And certainly I think we could do that, even if it's at our next meeting.
The one bill that comes to mind is that House Bill 173, which was the one that allows for a couple of members from GPHSA to be on the board. And I don't think the division was tracking that one at all, but it does impact some of our membership as we have retirees who are members. That's probably the only one for this year that is not the same.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds good. All right. Well, thanks for the feedback, you all. And Wayne, I'll check one more time before we move on, if you're available or ready now.
Woof, woof.
Okay, you're good. Okay, sounds good. All right, I'll give it to you.
All of this for very little update. The last 3 weeks have been pretty much a wash for me. I will make a renewed commitment to get this done before the next meeting, and apologize for the continuing delay. So it is what it is and where it is, but I'll be working on it heretofore as a volunteer, and maybe can be more focused on my willingness to donate attention to that when I'm not worried about controlling salary. So more to come on that.
Appreciate that. So whenever you're able to report out, we'd certainly want to hear what you found out. So next we're gonna talk about upcoming meetings. And okay, so Vicki just got it all in one big thing. So I know we've agreed to meet every first Wednesday of the month at 1. And so what we wanted to talk about is, now that we've the things have kind of slowed down a little bit, are we still wanting to meet through the summer, or do we want to take a pause and then pick back up? Has anybody given that any thought as far as what do we need to do for our upcoming meetings?
We could use them. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just about to say, I don't think we necessarily need to be meeting during the summer. I'm okay taking a pause, but I'm definitely open to other suggestions.
Well, one of the things that, a couple of things that Gretchen and Wayne and I discussed on our pre-planning meeting call was, if we don't have a meeting per se every Wednesday for the legislative committee, because of the slowdown in the legislation, there's a lot of stuff still going on, just nothing that we need to be a part of per se. But we could use that time for learning. We could have guest speakers. We could have like Director Rawlings or someone else come on to talk about the division goals. to the program area divisions like, well, actually Susan was on the call. I'm sorry, Susan, you were on the call too. But you know, would y'all want to use that time to maybe get some visions from our program area directors or district directors, just to kind of make sure that our committee is in line and we're synced up and all moving in the right direction as to what, you know, their goals and visions, what they're supporting, what they're trying to accomplish, and how we can be that supportive wraparound resource that can help push or drive some of the things that we would like to see done as a division or program area. So that was some of the things we discussed. And maybe, you know, what our next steps need to be as far as how do we gear up and get ready for the next legislative session to make sure that we have everything we need and, like I said, synced and stepping with the directives of our division and where we need to go from there.
Right. Thank you, Vicki. And then Angie,
Welcome.
you're on the call. So what are your thoughts as well?
Sorry, I had to come off mute. Yeah, I agree, Vicki. I think too, maybe. Well, I agree, Wayne. I'll get to that in a minute. But you know, go ahead and plan for the next session and identify maybe some needs, or I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Things that we want to push through, and being able to come together and perhaps research, provide research, do some research around those issues. That's the word I think I was looking for, to help better advocate for those. But I liked your ideas, Vicki, too, of meeting with, you know, go ahead and meeting with leaderships and trying to plan for that next session. And I had asked about the Advocacy Academy, and Wayne had said that probably needs to wait till after the conference. I agree. I just don't want it to get lost, because I do think the ones who went through the first one really enjoyed it and it was beneficial. And they didn't have as big as an opportunity to utilize what they had learned because COVID came out, there was no reception, etc. But just making sure, you know, we revisit that and look at doing that again, I think is something we need to keep in mind too.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. I think you're absolutely right, because hopefully we would be able to have that in person next year. I know that hopefully is the goal for what Wayne had mentioned to us. So I think, yeah, working on trying to get that started after the conference, but hopefully we can kind of do some things before the next reception would be needed, would be beneficial. Does anybody else have any input? And if not, I will move on to the next topic.
I think if I remember correctly, I'm looking at my notes and I did not spell it out in my notes. So I'm recalling, and that's not ever a good thing, but that we, you know, we talked about the legislative planning retreat, which may be on your next steps, but in the mix of talking with leadership, I think we floated the idea of maybe having a session at the conference that was about upcoming legislation, letting the budget, which should be ready by then for, I know it sounds crazy, but you know, they start getting the next year's budget ready early, which often drives what's going to happen in session. So if we wanted to even talk about whether that was a good idea or not, that would be separate from, you know, a small conversation with this group, inviting leadership on to talk about what they see coming and how we could help.
Yes, I do remember that. Thank you, Susan, because we talked about Cliff O'Connor being able to be at one of the annual conferences. And that was an opportunity for people to have some direct contact with him, because we rarely get to do that, especially as a county director. So I do remember that. And thank you for bringing that up. And I guess that would kind of be more of a discussion that the whole, what the executive, the board of the association would talk about as far as conference planning and what would happen there. But I think our committee could certainly support that however we needed to, if that were the decision that you all would go with. So that's just something I guess to notate and talk about later. And then collaborative efforts. Vicki, would you kind of touch on this if you don't mind?
Well, this was a kind of, it's just all encompassing where we're collaborating with other groups, whether it's leadership, other divisions, child support, Office of Family Independence, you know, whatever, whoever is able to be a part of a GPHSA membership that the organization supports, to try to start bringing in others to be more of a collaboration together and get more people engaged. And perhaps there's those that, you know, are on the fence or maybe didn't want to volunteer for one of the like content expert positions, or I don't even know what the right word is for it, but just one of those roles, you know, or just collaboration with more than just our committee, to bring others into our fold to help us get synced up and help the awareness and help spread more information about what we do and why we do it. And it would help with educational purposes for everybody to get to know everybody and whose roles doing this and whose vision's doing that. Possibly help with membership drive, you know, getting involved, getting engaged, being part of the team. We just talked about, you know, just bringing others to the table with us as a, you know, they talk about synergy where you have a group where there's more energy. Everybody puts their efforts together, kind of like a brainstorming. How do we as a group collectively and collaboratively reach our goals?
Yes, and forgive me for being slow. I understand that this was kind of all encompassing.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I
Just
didn't
have a
really know how to,
conversation. Yes.
because yeah, I started to do it all bullet points, but I thought, gosh, they all just connect.
Yes,
You know, it's all
absolutely.
kind of, you know, it's all these ideas. And so we're trying to present it to the legislative committee members to say, okay, here's what we kind of kicked around. What do you guys think? You know, and Angie, what do you think? You know, is this something that, you know, you think the board would be interested in? And we even talked about a mini summit, you know, where we had the different breakout sessions, whether it was, you know, 1 o'clock, we got Cliff O'Connor speaking in it. 2 o'clock, we have Director Rollins speaking in it. 3 o'clock, we have Mary Havoc speaking in it. So, or, you know, just maybe a half day summit, or turn in one of our monthly meetings. It doesn't have to be the first Wednesday. It could, you know, because I know that Mary Beth Lucas, she is a member of this committee. However, she has a conflict. She can't meet on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock because she has a standing leadership meeting that she can't miss. So we can change the date and time to help, you know,
Right.
to help the scheduling of others that really want to be a part. And I know she does. So, you know, we could schedule it for a different day, you know, a different time, a different format, just to be able to have those guest speakers. But we're full of ideas, but we need some help kind of reining those in and figuring out what our focus needs to be and how we want to move forward with this committee. I think we've got a great system where we watch for legislation and we have the content experts look at that and analyze it. And then we have Miss Susan that gets a complete understanding from where our committee stands and then from Kevin and the division. So she is well armed when she goes to meet with the legislators. She can speak, you know, very intelligently about, you know, what all's going on and how we feel strongly or how we feel not so strongly about something. But I think we've got a good system for watching legislation. Now it's like, where do we go from here? How do we make it better? What do we do to get more involved, get others more involved, and just make it better? That's kind of where we're headed, but we need help with, you know, ideas and buy-in. And, you know, we don't want to just dictate, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. You just show up. We don't want that to be that. We want everybody to be a part of the decision-making and be, you know, be all in, so to speak. So this is where we're trying to get feedback from all of you guys as to what your feelings are. You know, what do you feel strongly about? What do you want to see? Where do you think we need to grow?
Good afternoon. I think that, I just want to say, I think that ties in with what you were saying earlier about the need for us to continue meeting regularly and have input from others as to, you know, what's going on within the different. Yeah, what you were saying, I think that would keep everything together, keep everybody on the same page in this process of moving forward.
Hmm.
What you're talking about
Mm-hmm.
with the buy-in and everything.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I know that everybody can't make every meeting. We know that. And, you know, maybe we start recording the legislative committee meetings so that if by chance, because we don't produce minutes, because it's kind of hard to facilitate and take minutes too. So maybe we can start recording the meetings. So anybody that just can't make it can catch up, you know, that we have it on the SharePoint, or that maybe that's everybody's go-to, you know, go to SharePoint. If you want to know the upcoming events, what we're doing, how we're doing it, how you can get involved. We need to make sure that everybody consistently knows where you can go to get information.
Vicky, hey,
Yes.
I already record. I record all the committee meetings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know. 'Cause usually
did.
you have a little icon or something
Yeah,
that
it's
shows your recording. Oh, that's awesome.
It's a,
Rita?
and I've been posting to YouTube, but we can certainly post to SharePoint. I guess I would just post the link there. So yeah, that's no problem at all if we want to do that.
Yeah, well, you can just post the link to the YouTube on SharePoint if you want to. That way it doesn't take all that space up. But yeah,
Yeah,
thank you
thanks.
for letting me know that. I didn't know.
And it is saying recording at the top corner of my
Okay,
screen.
maybe because I'm sharing my screen. I'm not able to see a whole lot when you share your screen. So.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, great. Yay. We're already doing it.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
That's what I was going to ask. Was there anybody else that wanted to say? And
Sorry, Gretchen. I'm taking
No,
over.
no,
I'm
no.
sorry.
No, you're fine. And I was just going to say that I appreciate all the feedback and the, you know, people making comments or whatever. And if there's anyone else that would like to make a comment, if you haven't put it in the chat, just, you know, now go ahead and let us know. And thanks whoever is checking the chat, because I didn't think to do that. Okay, well, I guess I don't have anything else. I don't know, Vicki, Wayne, Susan, if you all have anything else to discuss on today's call, just other than, you know, our next meeting would be June, I think it was June the 2nd, I saw. That would be the first Wednesday in June. Hopefully that's the right day. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we would just plan to meet then. And I think we could, you know, depending on what Susan's able to do related to the spreadsheet, we could have some conversation about that if needed. And then just some further conversation about the things we've talked about as far as what we want our upcoming meetings to look like, what more collaborative efforts as far as bringing in new members from other agencies. And then if we want to look at having some mini sessions where other people come and just kind of present to us about information that we want to possibly follow, track, whatever. We can have some further discussion at our June meeting related to that. But if in the meantime, you all be thinking about what else you would like to know or how you would like to see the committee go, we would certainly love to have dialogue about that.
Would you, would anyone be interested in maybe inviting Kevin to just talk for a few minutes and making that connection with the expert, so to speak, for the division, and just asking him to share his thoughts about, I mean, it would be a beginning of kind of what we're talking about, but a natural place. I think it would, he's excited that there is a committee that, you know, actually is interested in learning more. And I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to interact with Kevin, but he, I mean, my goodness, when he retires, he can totally be a legislative process civics teacher. He's just so good at that. So maybe we could, if y'all are open to that.
Oh, yeah.
Some comments.
100%. I think that's a great idea, especially if we're going to be looking at something he's developed. It would be awesome to be able to get some understanding, you know, from the creator of what, you know, what's going on, and then have some idea of what the division is looking at. I like the idea. Does anybody not like the idea?
I think it's really quite wonderful. One really positive thing that happened is that Kevin was able to include Susan, and I think that's good evidence of having positive relationships in the division discussions on legislation that's upcoming. That makes the coordination so much easier, and he does have a broad perspective. So I think that would be an excellent idea. And on the Advocacy Academy, I do very much, I think it's very important, and I appreciate Angie keeping that on our horizon. We could look at some interim discussions about the format, the scope of the activity. There was one activity that we initially planned that we didn't include, and maybe even do some solicitation in advance of the conference, but we don't need to be expending a whole lot of effort on implementation then. So just wanted to sort of shift some thoughts about that. I think there's some work that we could do to sort of more focus the agenda in preparation for doing something in the fall after conference. So, but it's very important to keep it on our horizon.
Thank you, Wayne. Great feedback. Vicki, do you have anything else that we need to discuss before we close out?
I can't think of anything. We've covered a lot of ground, a lot of information.
Yeah. Right. I sure appreciate you keeping us on track. So thank you for that. Susan, before we close out, I'll turn it back over to you. Is there anything you want to comment? I think it's a great idea to see if Kevin can participate, and we'll just kind of wait to hear from you about when he would be able to do that. But is there anything else you would want to say before we sign off?
No, not at all. I know everybody's time is very valuable. So since we are committed to remaining connected through the summer in some way, shape, or form, I really appreciate, you know, how organized you and Vicki are, and you keep us moving so that we really make the most. I mean, we get a lot accomplished in 30 minutes. So that's very much appreciated.
You're welcome. Now, will you be the one inviting Kevin, Miss Susan?
I think it would be better if you did. I
Okay.
will. I mean, I'm certainly, that's all Vicki.
I had some
What makes
interaction
sense.
with him. I
Um,
actually have interacted with him because when I first was a co-chair of the legislative committee, I'm like, oh gosh, I'm in over my head. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what this is about. And he was just so patient and just answered so many of my questions. He even sent me, I think, a PowerPoint that he had created on explaining how the legislative process worked.
Oh, yes.
Or no, he had a video. He had a video where he was doing training or something, and that was so helpful. So I've been lobbying, trying to get him to be a legislative committee member, but GPHSA member, but he's thinking about it. So
Okay.
see. We'll see. But
Well,
but
maybe
sure, I'll
this would
reach out
help
to you.
him decide. He's our guest. He's the star of the
He is the
next
star.
meeting.
Okay.
Yes, and if you and we can talk about it more if we want to, but I think he'll be very receptive to it because it's not during, his crazy time. This is the
Right,
summer. I think
right.
is a little bit of a downtime for him as well.
So you think
So,
the next month, the next meeting, you think would be an ideal time? I mean, according if he's
Um,
available, but
yeah,
do y'all want to do this next month?
I think it would be good. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. Because I think we're probably going to have to focus on what, help with the conference coming up. I mean, that would be.
Well, not only that, if Susan's going to use the spreadsheet that he has, him
Right.
being the author of it can explain, his his thought process, his thinking behind how he's organized it and how to read it. Because I'm
Right,
sure
yeah.
he has probably little shorthand notes or something, or coding or something that kind of tells him, whatever. So we all have our little personal ways we shorthand stuff, but anyway. All right. Well, I'll reach out to Kevin and see if he's available for our next meeting.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
You're
All right.
welcome.
Yeah, well, thanks everybody, and hope you have a great Wednesday, and the rest of the week is awesome. We will talk with you later. Thanks.
Thank you.